Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to All Things Conservative with only 3 people here today. There is only Job, Connor, and myself, your host, Dalton Walker. Like I said last week, we're going to be focusing on the subject of immigration today. Two of our guests today had last minute engagements and were unavailable. So we're just going to be expressing our viewpoints and what we think about immigration today. So hope we can get this conversation started. Joe, you want to start us off?
Sure. Yeah. So, the original idea for this episode was we were trying to find some guests who were either they or their family had past experiences of going through the immigration process, as that is the subject we are talking about for immigration. And, it is a huge topic, especially in today's society, especially with, Donald Trump running for president and how there's a bunch of memes talking about how he's wanting to build this wall and build borders for the immigration process. And I find it very interesting. It is a very dicey situation that I think a lot of people are trying to figure out. And there's obviously a lot of leftists are very upset with the way we are going about this immigration process. So, one thing I would like to mention about this immigration process that I think a lot of people are kind of ignorant on is trying to, instead of bashing out and saying, well, you're racist for not wanting to let everyone into the borders of America, I feel like it would be more appropriate to instead ask why it is we think this way, why it is that we don't think illegal immigration should, be a part, or like illegal immigrants shouldn't come to America illegally, and, there's a lot of backstory to it, and, I think we have a bunch of reasons to explain the immigration subject. So I'm going to start it off, and, one thing I want to point up straight up, like why I have an issue with it, is because, you are breaking the law, regardless of how you see it. There is a reason why it says illegal immigration, because there are people who are coming here illegally, and that brings up a lot of issues that I have seen, especially with the past, and if you want to compare and talk about how Trump is a fascist and how he's racist for doing this, you could say that all you want. But let's just keep in mind of his new policy that he's put for immigration. And I think, honestly, that is probably the best we could find common ground with. I don't know why people are still complaining about his policy, and probably just because it's Trump, so everyone just portrays our president as the worst president of all time. But I forgot what he called his immigration policy. What was it? Do you know
what that immigration policy included?
So it had 5 pillars to it. The first one was it was going to grant citizenship to DACA, all the DACA patients, which was around 2 million immigrants in payment for the wall. So he would go to the president of Mexico and say, if you give us money to build this wall, we will grant these people citizenship. So that was number 1. Number 2 was, and this is no special order, because I don't remember them in order. But number 2 was to start limiting the amount of people who could come in based on family. So right now, how it works is if you have one person in here, basically unlimited people can come in from your family. So what he wants to do is he wants to break it down into an intermediate family. So if you're here, then your wife and your children can come. The next one is I believe it's merit-based entry. So now it's not, he wants you to come here and enjoy the United States and have pride for the United States, and not just be here and take advantage of our systems. And I don't exactly remember the other two, but I'll find it, and when I do, I'll say those other two.
Yeah, and having to go back at that, that sounds very it sounds very reasonable. I don't know what else the leftists want to, and how they want to handle the situation, because there's still people like us in this room that strongly disagree with legal immigration. Oh, yeah. But Trump was nice enough to let how many people? 3 million? You said 3.1 million people,
I think
or something like that.
Everyone on DACA, so that's I think 1.6 to 2.5 million people. I don't know the exact number.
Well, even so, that's a lot of people that came here legally, and Trump is allowing them to stay here. I don't know what else they want more of. They can only. But, the media really likes to portray our president as a very terrible human being, for plenty of obvious reasons. We can go on about the stupid things our president have said on Twitter and whatnot, but, Connor's meant, I talked with Connor a lot about this. We talk more about, yes, we don't agree with everything Trump says. We don't necessarily like the things he say as a person, but what we do focus on, especially as a president, is his policies. So that being said, he has really good policies for the, that we tend to agree with, and I'm not saying that Trump is the best president, but, he does follow up with a lot of good things. And, you could call me out for saying this, but he has done a lot more than President Obama has ever done for the past, 8 years? So it's saying a lot.
I think we have to take that with a grain of salt, however, because President Trump has the support of the Senate and the Representative House, and Obama didn't have that.
That is true.
So that takes a lot more effort to put things through. But I actually have the numbers for the DACA thing.
So I stand corrected. It's 4 pillars. These 4 pillars are border security. He no longer wants to accept DACA members, so no one else can join DACA.
Okay.
Diversity lottery and end chain migration. Those are the 4 pillars.
Okay, gotcha.
The DACA numbers are currently. There were 2 numbers that Trump said, but one is correct. He said from 650,000 to 3 million. And then the DACA, or the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, actually corrected him and said there are 689,800 active DACA recipients as of September 4th, 2017. So that would be for this school year. So that's how many DACA members there are, and Trump is allowing those DACA members to stay, obviously, because that was part of his new immigration policy. But there's no more DACA members that are going to be allowed, and that makes sense. To me, that sounds like a very fair thing to do.
He's willing to grant them citizenship, not just let them stay, but actually give them a United States citizenship.
I feel like that if that is to happen, I feel as if the only reason that they're here is to be in college, correct? That's what DACA's for. It's the student thing. Only if they complete their education that they should be able to get citizenship. That should be a thing.
Yeah.
But just because if you're here for 4 years partying and then you're like, yeah, I'm a DACA member, I'm going to school for I don't know how much they have to pay or whatever it is. But I feel like you should have to complete your education, and then that's the only way you can get your citizenship. So.
Yep. Yeah. So another thing I like to bring up, because we are conservatives and we always like to hear opposing views and, talk this out. So I'm going to bring up an example that Dalton and I actually heard in one of our classes. She made a really good point. And, she was talking about, how frustrating it is that, because she came here as an immigrant, and I don't know if she came in illegally or not, but regardless, she's talked about stuff, how, she respects America a lot. She does the Pledge of Allegiance. She's grown up here. English has been her primary language, any stuff like that. And she finds it absurd that she has to show this piece of paper or, show this silly form, so-called, to prove that she is a fully legal citizen. To show that she respects America, so on and so forth. So what are your guys' thoughts on that?
So my thoughts are that if you're from a different country, whether you're from Mexico, which is where everyone seems to, when people say immigration, people think Mexico, but we have ICE agents bordering the Canadian border as well. But when I think about it, regardless of whether it's silly or not, it's in place for a reason. There's only so many people we can take in this country. And if we just let everyone pour in, our economy is going to, fall.
Yeah.
Right? There'd be too many people, and we couldn't sustain life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we wouldn't, unless we had a job policy like we did back in the early 20th and 19th century. It'd be very hard to sustain economic growth at that magnitude. Plus, all those people will be moving to urban places, and frankly, some of these cities that are in America don't have room to grow by millions of people.
Now, on top of that, your first law that you're introduced to as an immigrant is, are you legal? So if you don't follow that law, what makes you think we can trust you with other laws? I'm not saying we can't, but why should we? You're not a citizen here, which means you don't have the rights that we have. You have some basic rights, being even illegal, to protect you. But that's all. Why should you get the Second Amendment?
Yeah,
or the First Amendment if you're not a citizen here?
Because didn't you had a class where do you still have that card with you? It was talking about Connor is taking one of the classes that they're talking about immigration, and they gave him a one of the guest members gave him a card. I'm going to read it. Says it in Spanish, but luckily there's an English translation in the back. It says, "I do not wish to speak with you, answer your questions, or sign or hand you any documents based off my Fifth Amendment rights under the United States Constitution." I already have a problem with that first, statement, because they think they already have the Fifth Amendment right under this United States Constitution, but they're legal immigrant.
Well, technically they do. They have the Fourth and Fifth Amendment.
Okay. Okay.
But again, why should we give you the First and Second Amendment if you're not a citizen? That is a benefit of being a citizen.
Okay.
If you're a citizen, these are your rights.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So from looking at this from a legal standpoint is definitely because that's to be used in a court of law.
Yeah.
Me and Connor and I had a conversation about this, and he was like, does everyone that is in why do illegal immigrants get constitutional rights? Because that doesn't sound right, because it should be citizens that get constitutional rights. But apparently the way that constitutions work is that it works for everyone that's inside the country, like within its borders, because the Constitution is what rules over the land, not the people. So everyone who's in there. That's why if let's say that someone illegally immigrated from Mexico, but they were of African descent. Okay. Now, what's stopping someone from taking that person and using them unconstitutionally using them as a slave if they don't have constitutional rights, that they don't have the anti-discrimination amendment and stuff like that abolish slavery and stuff? It's everything that happens within the borders of the certain country. That's why in World War II and the policies that Switzerland and the neutral countries put in position, where it was if you crossed into that border, that constitution applied to you, not to what your nationality actually is, because there were German refugees who made their way into Switzerland to take refuge from the Nazis. So constitutions work on the land, not the people, but I can totally understand why some people don't understand that.
Yeah.
So
like I said, the big thing is for me, I I don't necessarily care about how much, but like, why should you get this one? But my biggest thing is that's the first law that you're introduced to as an immigrant is, can you follow this law? And if you can't follow that one, why should we trust you with all our other laws that are even bigger?
Right.
Like having your own like
having
right
a
to
gun,
bear arms,
or
and
not having the ability to drive. Like we're not saying you can't, but why should we trust you if you can't follow the simple rules? I wake up for the Army every morning, right?
Yep.
In the morning, I'm supposed to be in the right uniform at the right time, shaven,
Mhm.
right? If I'm not, why would they trust me? If I can't do that in a college setting, where it's go to class for an hour a day as an ROTC student, and then go the rest of my day as a student. If I can't do it here, why would the Army trust me to do it at a level as a platoon leader? If I can't do it here with 15 students who are also in ROTC, what makes them think they can trust me with 40 people?
Right.
See what I'm saying? It's
Yeah,
kind of
that's
that
a good
same
point.
line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'm going to pull us back in, and I'm going to finish what this card says. So it says, I do not give you permission to enter my home based off my Fourth Amendment rights under the United States Constitution unless you have a warrant to enter signed by a judge or magistrate. Sorry, thank you. Magistrate with my name on it at that side you slide under the door. I do not give you permission to search any of my belongings based off my Fourth Amendment rights, and I choose to exercise my constitutional rights. So, thoughts, gentlemen?
Ooh, I actually have a very interesting statistic here after we finish up what Job just asked.
Oh, thoughts. So like I said, I think I can see, now that Dalton said that, I can see why the Constitution is over the land, because it keeps other countries from coming to our country and say we want them back, which I think in the long run is a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think they should have restricted amendments, so that they may have all the amendments, but I think should be a restriction to what they actually have on on the amendments, right? So they have all their amendments, but they don't get the full amendment until the full amendments until they become a citizen, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Like they should still have the freedom of religion and the freedom to express, but maybe not own a business.
Yeah, that makes sense. And like you need an ID to drive a car, and that kind of thing. Where it's like if you're putting other
you should
people's
still be
lives at
treated like a
risk
person.
Yeah,
but there are some things that we require you to have, and you need to be a citizen to do that.
Mm-hmm. So I actually have some statistics from 2016.
Okay.
So 2 years ago, 1.49 million foreign-born individuals moved to the U.S. That was a 7% increase from the 1.38 million that happened in 2015. And I'm going to give you the numbers of how many people from each country or each area of the world they came from. So, in 2016, the leading country was India. 175,000 people. It's a lot of people.
That is.
Followed by China and Hong Kong, 160,000. Then 150,000 from Mexico. Who are you guys waving at?
No, sorry. Wait, yeah, someone just passed by. Yeah.
Okay. And then 54,000 from Cuba, and then 46,000 from the Philippines. But it actually...
So they're like fourth, Mexico.
Third. But they're passed up by China and India, which I think's pretty neat, actually. I didn't know that until I just looked this up.
That is pretty neat.
But that was not the statistic that I expected there. You don't really you only hear about illegal you hear about like Mexican illegal immigration, legal immigration, how long that takes, but you never really hear about people who immigrate from like Denmark. Or people who,
well, that's because they do it legally.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. So it's like you never do you guys know that India was the first number one on that chart? Do you know that?
No, I didn't even know that. Yeah.
Okay.
No.
See, that's because they can't immigrate illegally because
it's a
they're
long
half
ocean.
a world away.
Yeah.
So
No, but like, so back on top of that, whether I've had a lot of research done where people who are seeking citizenship are angry at these illegal immigrants because we're saying bring everyone in,
Mm-hmm.
Well, and we're like they've had hardships, their country's corrupt, there's gang violence over there, and these people's response is, I'm in the same situation. So why do they get to cheat the system when I'm over here doing it the right way?
Right.
See what I'm saying? Like, they're angry because they're doing the right thing, and these people just get to skate by, and and everyone thinks that's okay.
Yep. You know what I just realized? I just had a mind-blowing moment. So, you know how a lot of people here in America, especially the leftists, they talk about how much they hate America's policies and stuff like that, and they're willing to go to other places like Sweden.
Mm-hmm.
But notice that the people of like Sweden and all the other countries are wanting to come here, as you said, because they're corrupt and they're having all these issues. Don't you guys just find that a little ironic?
I don't think that people understand that, if the American people want something changed, they can do it. Because you know what happens? There's these really cool things called elections, and you go to them and you vote for people that you want, that have the ideas that you have, and then they go and they make policy on that. They take away policy that you don't like, and they make policy that you like. And you know what's funny? That Democrats have louder voices than Republicans, because that's how they are. They scream and yell until they get what they want, because wow,
they're children.
Because that's kind of how it is, and that's why the Republicans control the executive house and the legislature right now, because someone said to me, the Democrats are about to control the Senate, and I was like, no, they're not, and they're like, what do you mean? No, they're not, and I'm like, all right, well, let's look at it like this: there's 51 Republicans and 49 Democrats in the Senate. That's a pretty even number. But they're not going to control the entire legislative house, because the Republicans have like 50 more people in the representative party than the Democrats do in the representative house. So it's like, no, that's not really not going to happen anytime soon.
No.
So it's
I also think people are tired of the Democratic Party in office because they've done nothing. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
they sit and complain.
They're all talk and no bite.
Yeah. They don't do much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Then again, our last 5 presidencies haven't had the full support of the House, the Senate, and the judicial system.
You have to take that into consideration. But at least my thing is, you may hate Trump, whatever, but he's doing exactly what he said he was going to do.
Yeah, he didn't lie.
He may not have gotten all of it done yet, but everything that he said in his campaign and promised in his campaign is either in the works or already has been done.
Yep.
In some way, form, or another.
Either what is the things he said he has done have already been done, or they're in the process of it.
Yep. That's what Connor just said.
Yeah.
So
I know.
I'd rather have a president who, does things and says what he does what he says he's gonna do, instead of having someone who just kind of sits there and blows smoke.
Yep.
I don't want you to tell me what I want to hear. I want you to do what I want.
Yeah.
If you say something, be a man of your word, or a woman of your word. Whatever.
And I feel like some Democrats are pushing for the dismantleization. Dismantleization, is that a word?
Yeah,
I don't think it's a word.
Pretty sure.
Taking down ICE. I don't really think that ICE needs taken down, because they're just doing their job.
Oh, yeah.
There's this really cool thing that's called, all right, yeah, you're illegal. You're breaking a law.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You either go to prison,
There's
or
consequences
you get
for your actions.
It's illegal to come here illegally.
Yep,
you knew that when you crossed the border.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's I don't understand why people are like, take down ICE, they're ruining everything. And I'm sitting over here, I'm like, dude, if they did it legally, then I wouldn't have a problem. But they're here, just here.
Yeah. And they're not doing much for America either,
Well, I mean, that might not be true.
Well, okay, well, yeah, but I mean, you get what I mean, though, because some people there's some people that don't respect America's policies. They're just
Well, that's true. But if you look at Storm Lake itself,
yeah.
the Spanish population has increased. It's the majority.
Oh yeah.
And there's a lot of illegal immigrants in Storm Lake.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they work at the Tyson factory.
But they give back to their community. I don't.
Yeah.
I think
I don't have a problem with that at all.
Yeah, I don't either.
If you're here and people that do that, they're vying for to become citizens.
Mm-hmm.
That I have no problem.
And
with.
they're waiting out the they're still illegal, but they're waiting out the process to become legal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that. Those are called work visas at that point. You can apply for a work visa and then you work here. But if you're just coming to come
I
here,
haven't heard that. Yeah.
no.
If you're coming here and then be like, okay, I'm going
And
to go
you're-
on the welfare system.
Yeah, and
I'm going to steal money.
Yeah, you're exploiting the policies that we have in check for people who don't have jobs and people who are citizens. Then that I have a super big problem with because you're just stealing from our government.
And
that's why I
you're
was
not
trying to
helping our
explain,
economic system either. You're
Yeah.
taking from us rather than giving back to the United States.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. But yeah,
So,
it didn't come out right. There's a lot to talk about this subject because, you brought up ICE. And then I think another issue about this whole immigration is, as funny as it is, with the fake news, it exists. Like, do you guys remember that very popular photo that Time magazine made with Trump looking down on that little girl? Did you, if you even look into if you even do your research, that picture of that little girl, it had nothing to do with the immigration policy at all of what was going on. It's just like.
Hey. Since we're on the subject of immigration, I'm going to try and pull us off of Mexico for a little bit.
All right.
Just because I want to talk about the travel ban.
Yep, let's do it.
So the travel ban was I forgot how many countries there were that were within the travel ban, but it was a policy put in position that didn't allow people from certain countries to come into America. Right? They weren't allowed to travel into here. Mm-hmm. Be that for immigration or being a refugee or just leisure. See, but then everyone there was this big uprising and people invited on unconstitutional that you're not allowed to do that. It's not unconstitutional. It was deemed unconstitutional. I don't think it is. I think that with the whole travel ban thing, we're just protecting American interests and American security. And if you have a problem with protecting American security,
wasn't it Washington who didn't want anything to do with foreign affairs? He's like, if we get into foreign affairs,
it was
our country's going to collapse.
Actually a lot of the early people were a lot of the founding fathers were let's not get into European and Asian affairs because we're we don't want to have that. We want to stay internalized.
And that's when they were small at first. But
Yeah.
I still think I hate this. We have to love everyone and do this. What about the people who are here? Mm-hmm. Why do we need to worry about everyone over there when we have our own problems and struggles right here?
Mm-hmm.
Why does the United States have to be the one to step in and take action? Why can't Britain do that? Or why can't Switzerland do that? You know what I mean? There's other countries out there who are just as strong economically and politically as the United States.
Yeah,
Why is it our job to carry the world on our backs?
I think that not only applies to the world, but to the honestly the UN.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you hear UN coalition forces, who are leading the UN coalition forces every single time? United States.
I mean, we do have the best army in the world,
Yeah.
but why do we have to be the? And then when we do that, when we're on the coalition forces and we're the first one in the fight, then people complain, "Why are you stepping in? We were told to."
Yeah.
You told us go do this, and now you're going to complain because we're there.
Yep.
So which one do you want? You can't have it both ways. We can't be the top of everyone's list and then be complained at. You either want us or you don't. It's kind of like in the United States with the cops, right? Everyone's like, "Oh, the cops are evil," all this stuff. Who's the first person you call when someone breaks into your house?
The cops.
The cops. So you're telling me that these evil people, these are the people you're going to call. You call them slanders and all this stuff, but when you really need help, you're their best friend. It's the same type of deal, and that's the kind of stuff that makes me angry.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't blame
Honestly, if it was up to me, this is I don't like, don't quote me on this. It's like off the record kind of thing. But I would take all of our forces out of the Middle East. Let the Middle East descend into chaos. Let them do their whole thing. I don't really human rights stuff. You can be refugees, whatever. I'd pull that like I don't know how many thousands of soldiers we have in the Middle East stationed there, but I'd pull them out and then do the same thing that we're doing down there, at the U.S.-Mexico border, and station them there.
One of my friends was like, we should just pull all the military out of the Middle East and just make it a sheet of glass and restart.
All right, I want to pull us back in real quick. Another thing I like to mention, because I know Trump plays a big role in immigration and how, because that's why everyone mainly hates Trump. U.S. leftists, why you hate Trump? It's mainly they're mainly going to talk about the immigration policy and how he's racist because of that and all that nonsense. And, the other thing I was, it was in the tip of my tongue, it was my head, and I dropped it. Oh, okay. So, no, but there's a lot of, gosh, I can't remember it now, but there's a, crap, I can't remember, but there's a lot of, like, accusations towards Trump when it comes to the immigration policy and all of that. I kind of reestablished that, but gosh, I'm trying to remember.
All right, Joe. While Joe tries to remember, I guess I'm just gonna throw a point out there. That the U.S. was founded by immigrants because that's what we were here for. We came to escape the.
See, I disagree with that statement. We were not founded by immigrants. If you look up the definition of an immigrant and the definition of settler, it's two separate things. The definition of a settler is someone who migrates to a landmass that is uncivilized, meaning there is no previous civilization with rules and structure.
See, whereas I disagree with that.
That's the definition.
No. I disagree that America was like that.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah.
When the colonists came over, there was no law. There was no law of the land.
Yeah, because the land belonged to everyone.
Exactly, but there was no specific law stating that. It was all vocal. There was no laws in place. There was no government. There was no nothing here.
Yeah.
If you look at the definition of immigrant, it's someone who comes to a well-established, well-built place. Was this place well-established and well-built?
I'm gonna say yes, just because the American Indians or the Native Americans who were here had the way that they had been doing things for hundreds of years. The Spanish were already down there and whatever, and the Incas and the Mayas, they had laws, they had traditions that they founded cities. That to me sounds like civilization, and that to me sounds like immigrants. What the Spanish did, and then up here, the people, the Native Americans are more nomadic and less agricultural, but they still had their traditions, they still had their laws, they still had the fact that you shouldn't just kill someone. They had structure, they had like hierarchies and stuff, but they obviously they don't fit our criteria of civilization because it was just a bunch of tribes that were warring with each other. But I will always argue that the Maya, the Inca, the all the Southern American civilizations that were there, they were definitely civilizations.
Yeah, those ones.
And then you come down there, and then the Iroquois were definitely a civilization as well because they founded Grand River and those bigger cities because they did start agriculture. But it's that midsection of America that people like to associate with, but America's huge, and there was civilization here. It was just that some people didn't like to follow it. So I think that the people who came to America were immigrants, but into a place where they had more knowledge and more structure, so they just settled the country here on their own. But going back to what I was originally saying, the people who came over were not the first people here, obviously, because there were human beings here who had the hierarchical structure and stuff, and then there was a genocide because the Americans, the European people who came here did genocide. There was like 15 million people here.
Mm-hmm.
There are 15 million Native Americans in the eastern side of the United States, and they got massacred by smallpox. Just people like the French and Indian Wars and other stuff like that. So, immigration is definitely something that has been in America for a long time, because even when those 13 colonies were here, there were still people immigrating from England and France and Germany, and people were just coming to America because it was like, hey, I can make money there. And so they came here. And then when we became an actual country, I just kind of thought about this. If you immigrated from Germany to America when it was still a colony of Britain, were you immigrating to Britain?
Maybe.
Would you require
so.
a British citizenship?
Probably.
Huh.
It was
I'm gonna look that up when I get back to the dorm.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's only now that we really are focusing on like illegal immigration from Mexico, because America and Mexico share the most like hotly contested border like in the western side of the world. Then you get us in Canada, the longest unprotected border anywhere, because we're like, if you want to come to America, you can kind of just come, because it's Canada. We're kind of like the same people.
Yeah. Well, you also think about it like it's funny that you brought that up, because Sweden was a lot similar. They just allowed everyone to come in.
Oh, I remember this.
So yeah. Sweden. I love talking about Sweden now, because it seems like the leftists love Sweden, but they have first off yet to go over there and actually see the problems, and two, look up the actual statistics and the crime rates, as we discussed before. And something that I would like to mention is Sweden did let everyone in, and guess what happened?
They closed their borders again.
Yep, they closed their borders again because they were having so many issues with their immigration policies, or not. I mean, if they even had any, but they had I think it was a lot of terrorist attacks and stuff like that. And you know what I find interesting is ever since Trump has ran for president and he has established those immigration policies, we have hardly had any terrorist attacks.
We've had shootings, but no.
Yeah, we have shootings, but nothing like
attacks.
crazy, like bombing massacres or anything crazy like that. I find that interesting that people don't take in consideration too. So, and the other thing I hear a lot that leftists say is that the immigration laws can also be considered as unjust laws, which I also find interesting. The unjust laws, they talk about like, I've saw this one video of this person who I find interesting. I say interesting a lot right now. That is weird. Okay. Anyways, but because it is, but he was persecuting specifically people that are Christians, and was talking about their views on immigration and why we can't just let everyone in, and how it's considered an unjust law. And people would say, well, like, there's unjust laws for situations like, abortion, like we talked about last week. But we're so hypocritical because we think abortion's an unjust law, but immigration shouldn't be, that we should follow laws, so... I didn't know what your guys' thoughts were on that, but, I would have to pull up the video and have you guys listen to it if you guys wanted to.
I don't think we have time for that today, because we're going to try and wrap up here.
Yeah. I mean, it's a huge subject to talk about. I mean,
immigration is definitely one of the biggest, most hot
topics
in America right now.
Yeah, because...
Definitely.
Yeah. I will say I'm not completely educated on it. I hope I will educate myself more into the immigration. Yeah. Educate myself more into this topic of immigration policy, because it is a very huge thing, and it is a problem to establish, and there's many ways we could go about it. The way I would like to think about a good analogy I like to think about when it comes to immigration is you think of America as your home, your house. You have a house that you build in, or not that you build in, but you live in, and you have, and if you think of it as, okay, let's let everyone into my house. I don't care who comes into my house. Everyone could come in, everyone could come out of my house. Like, it doesn't matter. So you don't have any fences or you don't have anything else like that. But you have people that will come into your house, and there are some bad people out there, and they're going to want to start a massacre.
Or they're going to take your spoons.
Yeah, they'll steal your stuff, or they'll start trying to burn your house down, or they'll start trying to
make a mess.
They'll make a mess,
and you have the other people who will help you and.
Yep.
My biggest thing is the way I always explain it to people is, it's exactly like a house, immigration. Ask yourself this question: are you willing to keep your door open?
Mm-hmm.
Just in the United States, why do you lock your door every night?
Yeah,
it's the same thing with the border. You have to have some type of control there. Because otherwise, people are just going to walk in and take advantage of the situation.
Yeah, we got to establish and create boundaries in our country.
Yep.
That's how we make sure that we will be a safe country and nothing crazy, stupid happens, and everyone respects our country the way it is.
Exactly.
So.
All right. Well, thank you for listening to our podcast, All Things Conservative. Yeah, I'm sad that Tyler wasn't here today.
I'm sad that our guest wasn't here today.
Yeah,
I really wanted to hear their side of the story, but
But some people just don't like to come and talk to conservative people just because people just don't like to do that.
We just don't make we just people that
we're intimidating.
Yeah, we're intimidating. But you see, okay, another thing I like to mention.
Oh, come on, Job.
I'm sorry. But and it's really quick. But not everything there's not everything we agree with these kind of subjects. I mean, you just heard earlier, Connor and Dalton had a discussion on, how America was founded by immigrants and stuff. We don't always agree on everything, but, we still find common ground and we have a discussion about it. That's the beauty of...
I understand, what Connor's viewpoint is, and
yeah.
he understands what my viewpoint is, and we come to an understanding that both of us had different viewpoints,
yeah.
and both are to each other correct.
And I still don't hate you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
We don't hate each other because we have different viewpoints.
The beauty of having a civil discussion
is just absolutely incredible.
It is.
All right, let's actually wrap it up.
Okay.
Thank you for listening to our podcast. This was Job, Connor, and Dalton, and we will see you guys in 2 weeks because next week we will not have a podcast because we are all busy. So,
yep.
Y'all have a good night.
All right. Bye-bye.